Now, Brazil's national oil company, Petrobras, is set to complete the sale of its Nigerian assets, which are valued at $2 billion this year. The company joins IOCs like Shell, Total, Agip and Exxon Mobil, who are also divesting from Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Biodun Adesanya, managing consultant at Degeconek, joins us now to explain the trend and what it could mean for Nigerian oil companies. Biodun, pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
So we've been talking about the IOCs divesting for a while now, and but let's start with the reasons why these divestments are taking place from onshore to offshore. Let's hear your perspective.
Yeah, basically, I think you can attribute the reason purely to economics. I mean, economics in the sense that costs of producing 1 barrel of oil in the onshore area had over time been increasing. And that cost can actually be split into two. You've got the technical costs, you've got the non-technical costs. So the technical costs, while that may not be so much going up, the non-technical costs in the area of providing security, community issues, vandalization and repairs that goes along with it, had largely contributed to the overall increase we see in cost. And that overall affects the economics. So I don't think any major IOC company would love to divest from a very lucrative and economically viable projects. So to that extent, it's economics. We can begin to talk about, what exactly within the economics, which is part of what I've said.
Because what I've seen so far is, for many of them, it's the militant attacks, or the threat of the militant attacks, because so many of them do not believe that the government can adequately protect them, and so why not go offshore to much safer? And for many of them also, what I also hear is it's from a strategy point of view. They're also reviewing the markets in which they operate and reviewing their strategies and seeing which countries, which assets are giving them a very good return on investment. And of course, if they look at a country like Nigeria and assess the risks and see that, okay, if we remain onshore, it hurts the business. So let's talk about the opportunity this presents for indigenous oil companies. Many of them, obviously, it's an opportunity. Oh yeah,
absolutely. What has happened is, therefore, there's been this opportunity has been opening for the indigenous players. You remember Seplat, the likes of Seplat came to effect because of these opportunities. The likes of ITO, New Cross, and so on and so forth. Quite a number of them. First EMP, and so on and so forth, have all come into fruition as a consequence of this opportunity. It's indeed a very good opportunity in the sense that some of these IOCs do have costs, overheads, that are no longer supportive of the assets they own, whereas an indigenous company with a leaner overhead will be able to operate these fields optimally and commercial and economically.
Because I was just thinking to myself, yes, the previous owners have left, but that doesn't mean that the challenges have gone away. So if the new owner comes to operate the field, I'm thinking, to what extent do those challenges hurt his own business too?
Well, basically, the newcomers are largely seen as Nigerian players. And I think there's some advantage in the fact that, okay, the face to this business now is a Nigerian entity as opposed to a foreign entity. So there's always that particular advantage that the Nigerian company confers in being able to operate successfully the assets. Of course, all the problems will not go away, but they are in a better position to better manage these challenges, and I think that's what's making it to work.
Do you think they're in a better position to better handle the militant threats?
You can be absolutely sure that the likes of ITO, Belema Oil, Seplat, New Cross, First EMP will be in a much better situation and being able to speak to the issues better than the Shells and the Chevrons of this world. Yes.
Now, on the other side of the coin, while some are divesting, there are also others who are holding back. They have plans or the desire, as it were, to divest, but they want some clarity. And there was talk about waiting for the Petroleum Industry and Governance Bill to be passed first to provide more clarity on the space. But that has been passed now, and I'm thinking, how does that change things for those who are already undecided?
I mean, the long time it took the PIB or the PIGB, which is a component of the PIB, to be passed, had seriously affected and increased the anxiety and the uncertainty in the business. But with the passage now, and hopefully with the assent from the president, which we're hoping will happen very soon, we anticipate that will clarify things for these companies, and they'll be able to do better business or better go ahead with their business in the sector. Now,
for some others also, they're waiting for, because some of the licenses of the oil blocks are also going to expire. Many of them actually are going to expire in 2019. Shell is a good example. All of Shell's onshore oil blocks will expire in 2019, and 9 other blocks that it sold along with its partners to indigenous companies also expire by 2019. What does this mean? If they're waiting for the JV's licenses to expire, what happens then?
Okay, basically, at the expiration of these licenses provides an opportunity for what I call portfolio rationalization. The companies will be able to assess what they have and know which ones are priority ones that they have to hold on to, and then which ones they have to keep. It's clear that the lesser attractive ones can easily be relinquished at that point. There are 2 things that can happen. It's either they divest, in which case in the middle of the lease ownership, or they relinquish at the expiration of the lease. So if they relinquish at the expiration of the lease, what that simply means is that block goes into the basket, and the Department of Petroleum Resources is able to administer another licensing round that will ultimately bring in a new operator to the block.
So how does all of this that's happening now, the divestment, how does it change the dynamics of that space? If we have many IOCs going onshore, and then we have those who have the capacity, the indigenous companies coming to take on onshore activities, how does that change the space?
It affects in different ways. For example, it provides new face, new opportunity to restart communication and conversation with new operators from the community standpoint of view. It provides employment opportunities for people, for Nigerians especially.
Well, those opportunities were there. Are you saying that because these companies are indigenous, they are more disposed to providing the jobs that the IOCs?
Exactly. If you have Shell holding on to, let's say, 10 blocks, and they are relinquishing those 10 blocks to, let's say, 5 companies, those 5 companies will have an MD, CFO, COO, and all of that, and we'll have geologists. And so while
most of them Nigerians, the local content. Okay.
Absolutely. So while Shell is managing those 10 portfolios with the same set of people, these 5 companies will manage the same portfolios with 5 different sets of people. So that ultimately increases the number of those employable in that case.
Well, how do you say, I mean, we've had the PIGB, the component of the PIB passed now, and obviously we're all waiting to see how this going forward will change the industry, make it more transparent and better efficient, especially, not going back to moving away from the days when NNPC was embroiled in so much, controversy. But are we beginning to see any signs of a change? And it's still fairly recent, but what are expectations?
No, I mean, the expectations are looking good. We are beginning to see some changes. NNPC on its own began some internal rearrangement and reorganization, moving towards this ultimate scenario that we're talking about. Clearly, the dynamics are changing and are changing for the better. It's clear that, so many ways of doing things in the past will have to give way to new ways of doing things.
Do you think foreign investors will now be looking at the space differently with more confidence and trust?
Absolutely. It will elicit that. Of course, the legacy issues of corruption and all of that, I think they have one eye on that, and they can't keep that eye away. But the landscape is becoming clearer, and they can actually see where their investment is going with this PIGB being passed. So that gives some comfort, really.
But are you confident?
Well, I'm comfortable. I mean, I'm comfortable. The critical thing is to remove what is going to go on in the industry, to, as much as possible, eliminate politics from it, so that when the leadership of the country changes from time to time, the policy direction doesn't affect where we're heading. Yes.
Biodun, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time today. Biodun Adesanya, Managing Consultant at Degeconek.